I wish that I could stop talking about Scott Galloway. But Scott Galloway keeps talking. Ergo, we have to keep talking about him. Now, if he was on CNBC or The View or wherever talking about finance, talking about, how to plan a career, how to succeed in the market, what stocks to invest in, how to, form a startup, all the things that he actually has experience and expertise in, I would not give a shit about what Scott Galloway is saying, but he's not talking about that. He's here on Beyonce's internet talking about relationships and dating dynamics and the male loneliness epidemic. I will never not put that in quotes because it's bullshit. Everyone's lonely. Everyone's disconnected. We're in late stage capitalism. The world is on fire. We've bombed Iran. No one is happy right now. It's not a male loneliness epidemic. It's men finally having to reckon with the consequences of their actions. Liz Plank had Scott Galloway as a guest on her podcast, Boy Problems. And I saw a clip of this on TikTok and I said, I got to go watch this whole episode. I don't follow her podcast, but I'm like, let's see if she challenges him. But most of the time, she just let him talk. So let's roll the clip and talk about it.
Maybe I'm not there yet, but I'm trying. I think it's baby steps, but let me finish where I started.
What they're reacting to here is a woman who emailed in for advice. She's been living with a homosexual for 18 months. She was dating him. She got pregnant by him. He was unemployed, and they had a plan that he was going to move in. He was going to look for a job, and they had a written document on like Google Docs saying what he was going to do, the specific steps he was going to take. 18 months later, he hadn't done shit.
And quite frankly, this guy needs to realize that as a protector, provider, and a procreator, he needs to level up. And sometimes that means taking baby steps and even just making small amounts of progress.
And now he's basically lying around her apartment being an asshole. She's pregnant. She just got laid off. He has contributed to none of the bills. He hasn't found a job. He hasn't even tried to look for a job. He's just kind of being an asshole now. Just kind of laying around on the couch being depressed and kind of treating her like crap.
To show that he takes his responsibility seriously.
Yeah. And sounds like she's doing everything already. So it's like you're already paying for the bills, you're taking care of the baby. And,
right.
I noticed in the letter, she's like, I created a Google Doc. She did a lot of the planning.
Yeah, she did all the labor. So when women in relationships, in heterosexual relationships, talk about domestic labor and the mental load, that's what this is. So not only did he not do the things they agreed he would do, he didn't even put any work into the planning. She did everything. And this is why we don't date down. When you date down, more often than not, you have to deal with this bullshit. Because the source of this guy's depression, all other things being equal, assuming he didn't have a depressive problem before, they got together, they can't handle not being in control. And by being in control, I mean the person that's making most of the money, the person that's providing, in the traditional sense. And if they don't have that role, they don't feel powerful. If they don't feel powerful, they don't feel like a man. If a person measures their worth by material goods, and if you have more material goods than them, they're going to feel worthless. So the solution, Scott, isn't create more men who have material goods. No, the solution is to stop assigning our value to how much shit we have. Stop assigning our value to our bank account balance. Stop assigning our value to how productive we are in a capitalist system that is designed to exploit each and every one of us. For a guy who's supposedly smart, who so many people on the internet look to give them guidance on these issues, by the way, he has no education or experience in, he is one of the stupidest people on the internet. So unless you're looking for advice on how to succeed at capitalism, you shouldn't be talking to Scott Galloway.
People aren't going to church as much. When people went to temple, it was sort of like, okay, there's 7 single men, there's 7 single women. They kind of figure out a dance and weight class. The parents get over involved and they sort of pair up. The attendance to religious institutions continues to decline.
Oh, church. Yeah, church. I'm sure that'll make him less misogynistic. Sure.
A lot of times the word creep will be used. And I've decided the difference between creep and romantic is the perceived attractiveness of the person initiating the contact. Everyone's up for a stranger approaching them
if they're hot
and starting a conversation as long as they find them attractive.
Yeah.
Are you fucking serious?
In addition, you see I'm seeing recently a lot on TikTok about women saying that they're just taking enormous risks dating a guy, that they might be unalived, which is Latin for murder. If I go on a date, I might be murdered. Having said that, 40,000 men will kill themselves this year. So the guy you're on a date with is 16 times more likely to go home and hurt himself than hurt you. So while I understand it's an issue.
Do you though?
If you go on TikTok, you get the sense that you are literally gambling with your life if you go on a date. And men are told that they are pathologized. They are told they are predators. They are told they constantly get reinforcement on dating apps where the top 10% of men get a disproportionate amount of interest, that women are not interested in them. Women are attracted to men for 3 reasons. The first is their ability to signal resources. If you have a Panorama Range Rover, you're signaling resources. But you don't even have to have the bling now. You have to have your shit together. That's how you signal you are worth a second date. You have a plan.
Why is it that only for men, we tell them to level up so they can be a man, instead of just leveling up because you're a fucking adult? This is insane making.
And this is the most under-leveraged attribute for young men trying to get women to be more interested in him romantically. It's kindness. And that is, women want to know that over the long term, through gestation, through times in her life where she may be vulnerable and not able to work, that you are a kind man, that you treat others well when there's no reciprocal expectation of something in return, that you're good to your parents.
Okay, so he's saying one of the most important things in selecting a partner is kindness. But I've heard him say on another podcast that women are told, oh, if he's not nice to his parents, dump him right away.
But even look at the media.
Right.
What does the media tell a woman to do? He's out. But he didn't open your door? He's not nice to his parent? Walk right out on that man. Like, it's literally, every piece of media is, you don't need him. You're a strong, independent woman. Pull the ripcord. You're out.
Being unkind to your parents is a sign that you are an unkind person. So let me get this straight, Scott. You're telling all of us that kindness is an important thing that women look for in a partner. But you're telling women that they should ignore clear signals that the person they're dating is unkind.
We decided that the answer to this masculinity crisis was to tell men to act more like women. If we were just more in touch with our feelings, if we just leveled up, if we just weren't as violent, we started pathologizing. I can't tell you how many times in my comments, Liz, I'll get, well, if men just got their shit together, they wouldn't have these issues. Can you imagine me saying that about a black person or a gay person?
But here's the thing, Scott. A black person or a woman didn't build the system that we're in. Men have built the system that we're in, and now more than ever, we don't even need to name any names. Like, you turn on your TV and you look at who's in government and who's in charge and who's deciding things and who put those people in power, and it's men. I think that's at the crux of the frustration of a lot of women. They get frustrated because they go, but you have power. We don't have the power that you have. So change the system. You actually have more influence than us in being able to change the very system that's hurting you. And by the way, we've been telling you all this time that this system is hurting us, and you haven't necessarily been paying attention until it's, doing having an effect on you, and I think your point about if you're a woman, there's no threat to going on a date with a man. Like, 1 in 10 women have their drink spiked. 11 million women are going to be raped while they're being drunk. Every woman knows a woman that has happened to.
Where school promotes the behaviors that are easier for a woman, a girl, to lean into. Sit still, be organized, be a pleaser, raise your hand. You just described a girl.
How has school changed in the last 20 to 30 years? Because he said all of the skills, all of the social skills you need to do well in school are all things that women are naturally good at. And by the way, we're not naturally good at these things. We're taught to be this way. Women are socialized to be this way. It's not an accident. And I'll ask again, what is different about school? You still had to sit in a classroom. You still had to raise your hand. You still had to do the reading. You still had to write the paper. You still had to do all the things you have to do now. The structure, they still have classrooms. You still have to, you sit in the classroom for 55 minutes, whatever, you ring a bell, you go to the next class. The structure of school has not changed. So what's different? Why weren't boys falling behind 30 years ago? If the education system disadvantages boys, why weren't they falling behind 30 years ago? Why weren't we having this conversation 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago? Because it's bullshit. Education for men and boys is now girl-coded. And you know what happens anytime something becomes too popular with women. There's too many of us there, or we get really good at it, or we start to surpass them. That activity, that thing, is seen by men as something that's for women. And because we define masculinity as don't be a woman, anything that women are into is something that men shouldn't be into, because that's girl shit. Yeah, education is gay now, apparently.
My basic view is the following. Should a 19-year-old boy, or male or man, pay the penalty for my privilege?
In his mind, the punishment is you don't get a woman. And you only believe that you're being punished, just like all these red pillars, you only believe that you're being punished if you thought that that was something you were entitled to. So Scott Galloway is still peddling this misogynistic nonsense that men are entitled to women. Can we please, please, please stop listening to Scott Galloway talk about women dating relationships? He is not qualified. He is a red pillar in sheep's clothing. That's it.